Y'all, and welcome to Great Geek Debates. Today we got some very special guest stars here. They are from Between a Pod and a Hard Place. We got Steven and we have Chris, and they are here to talk about the final 2 episodes here of Superman and Lois season 1, and probably get derailed into talking about all of Superman and Lois, because that's what we do here. We derail ourselves everywhere. It looks like Jordan and John are going to get kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm super excited. We think that Jonathan might have powers and he's just decided that he's not telling anyone.
That's a theory.
Because if you start watching what he's doing, his cast was supposed to be on 6 weeks. Wasn't on for 6 weeks. It wasn't even on 2. And you know that because of how the timeline worked. As far as when they pick up of one person doing one thing and one person doing another. And like episode to episode. The interesting thing about that punch is it was done in slow motion. And we know that Jordan's punch was not in slow-mo. And so you wonder if that Jonathan actually saw that happening in that moment to actually be able to be that fast, because theoretically we saw Jordan punching the log and he just punched it straight out.
I will tell you, I would be really excited if Jonathan ended up getting powers.
Yeah.
That said, I really do feel like I appreciate the switch. The kid that nobody would have assumed having abilities. I've always thought that was kind of cool. The fact that Jordan, the kid that's always been picked on, who's sort of the socially outcast, the one that isn't accepted, that has mental problems, is the one who's more like his dad. And I think that is probably much more true to life. Jonathan had always been the golden child. I'm sure that neither Clark nor Lois ever favored one child over the other intentionally. I think it was pretty obvious that Jonathan was the superstar.
Clark and John are always the second people. Jordan. Lois seems like she may have been very protective of Jordan. You see a lot of the times it's her being the parent to Jordan and not Clark. Jordan seems to resent his dad very much so, all the way up until dad almost dies.
I've got a younger brother, and I've always said that he and I are best friends and worst enemies. And I mean that in the most endearing way possible, simply because, we're very much alike. We support each other. And yet, man, he drives me crazy, and he knows all my secrets. And I feel that quality, we see that really acted out expertly between Jonathan and Jordan. They've got each other's backs and they support each other. And at the same time, you can see Jonathan and the pain he goes through when Clark and Jordan fly into the sky and head off the Fortress of Solitude. And you feel kind of bad for him because, you think, how much would he give to be able to have that same kind of moment with his dad?
Even just one time. Like,
I will say that for me, one of the things that I've really loved about Superman and Lois is that we, for once, we get a side of Superman that we've never seen before. We've seen baby Superman, we've seen teenage Superman, we've seen single Superman and even married Superman, but we've never seen Superman with a family. And this idea that here there's nothing that he can't punch his way through. There's not an issue on the planet that he can't solve. And yet it is 2 teenage twin boys.
As a longtime diehard Superman fan, I love it because we finally get to see Clark Kent as Clark Kent.
Right.
Superman is Superman. And even so much as you have to kind of go even a little further and say Kal-El as a Kryptonian. And they all exist really in Clark's head, but they are very different pieces of his mentality. When Irons comes to the show and they finally found out he's John Henry Irons, how much he's ready to kill him, because Clark was perfectly fine with dealing with him as Superman, being the peaceable Superman we all know and love. However, in that moment, Irons went one step too far and tried to go after his kid.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And
don't do that.
It was Kal-El, because Superman would not kill a human. He has no inclination to kill a human. He went full Kryptonian as like, this guy's done. You went after my wife. You went after my children. You are dead. You are totally done. And of course, later on, John Henry does absolutely redeem himself as far as working side by side with Superman. You are seeing that Clark has to fight himself, and it's an internal war between that biological Kryptonian need to just be cut and narrow, and that humanity that his parents, because of his upbringing, started, and what Lois has fostered, and being a dad to two basically half humans and half Kryptonians that he has no idea what they're going to be like. Now he knows one, but the other one still hasn't figured out, we haven't figured out he's just going to be completely a human. The Clark Kent side is so rewarding, and Tyler's vulnerability as Clark Kent makes you believe that.
Yeah. I think I always felt like the Clark Kent was a persona. Like it was a character that he played. He was really Superman playing the part of Clark Kent. I always wondered who the real person was. Is he really Superman, or is he really Clark Kent? And I think what we really see well about Tyler's performance is he's both. Yes. He's very real and present Clark Kent. That is really who he is. Though he does play up the klutzy, nerdy, that side. I love the line, Dad, Superman, the guy can't even put up the Christmas tree without falling off a ladder, right? I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
But I think that that dorky dad side of things is a very real part of his personality. And I think what this really shows us is that both Superman and Clark Kent, though distinct personalities, they're both equally real and valid. And I think that's cool.
I like the way that you worded that. They are both equally valid. His boys are causing him more headaches just doing normal teenager stuff. He could go lift a bridge. That's easier than dealing with his two kids.
Yeah.
And I think there's an interesting contrast because they brought in Lana Lang Cushing.
Yeah.
I've wanted Kyle gone forever. I still want Kyle gone. I don't care. I will not be sad if that character gets killed off. I'm sorry. He has no redeeming qualities in him. None.
He makes dinosaur pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
They look pretty good.
A lot.
Yeah, he's terrible. I love that they brought her in and they kept that bond between Clark and Lana intact. And I like that Lois isn't threatened by it. They coexist as two parts of Clark's life, because in the comics, without Lana, Clark Kent would not have had the spine he did to do what he needed to do. Right. He would have been very straight and narrow and very boring.
Yeah, I will say that what I appreciate about the show is, as a husband and as a father, I know so much about that struggle of being a dad who sacrifices his life for his kids or for his family. Or you think that I'm putting my time into my job and I'm able to pay for and provide for my family. And sometimes you sacrifice that time with the people that you care about the most, thinking you're doing the right thing. When I look at Clark and when I look at Kyle, they're exactly in the same boat, right? Kyle has dedicated himself to Smallville. He's dedicated himself to the fire department at the expense of his family. And Clark has done the same thing. His father-in-law pushes that button and calls him to go defend the world, and he doesn't make it for his kids' appointments and their games. So,
the general, that is a whole new story.
I hate him. Believe it or not, I'm okay because I understand where Kyle is coming from.
Oh, just so you know, Chloe has next to no voice, and she is saving it up for when she really wants to talk. We are not muted her. She is absolutely here, and neither is Steven. They can talk whatever they want.
No, even on our show, I'm just like, I sit back and half the show and just listen. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm part of this.
You are part of the show. You can talk all you want in the show.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about Kyle, honestly. I hated him at first, and now I'm like, man, he's kind of trying now, but it's like...
Honestly, there's a secret part of me that was like, can we kill him off and like temporarily have Lois and Clark have some falling out so that Sarah can have a dad figure for like a week?
Oh, no.
Just like, no, not like that, but just picking up the kids normally and a dad that takes them to the diner normally, and to give her a sense of normalcy, because I feel like every time she gives Kyle an inch, he takes that inch, stretches it a mile, and then basically does this rubber band thing, and it all goes to hell again.
Yeah.
He did rescue her as Superman, so I guess that
I still can't believe that like Lana doesn't know he's Superman, because like they grew up together and all this, and it's like, really, even in Smallville, like by 2 or 3 years, like everybody started to figure out, like all his close friends would figure it out. I'm just like, why does she not even have a hint of like, I don't know.
I think what they chose to do with that, I don't know if it's for sure. Chloe and I kind of looked at it. He left Smallville early.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back late. Now in Smallville, he stayed. And so, and then he built the whole team around it. And then you had Luthor as well as the foe. So I think that there's a period of time canon in Superman and Lois that he wasn't there, which would make up that period of time where he wasn't doing things.
Yeah, I like how they kind of followed along with the original Superman movie about how he left for like, what was it, 12 years or something like that, and came back. Even though it was like a vision that we were seeing, like I think that's like the actual backstory, which is really neat to see that. But you're right, in Smallville, he just kind of like grew up there and stayed there. He went to school. He didn't really leave and come back. And he kind of did for like a summer or something once, but then by that point, like it didn't, it wasn't the same. Like, I love Smallville, but I mean, they did a lot of things in such weird little ways that they kind of got lost around 5 or 6 seasons in, doing random things like, oh, we're going to have a whole season of Lana being possessed by a witch and this and this. I'm like, come on, it's not a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Yeah, well, I will be honest, people in my house want to watch Smallville, so we have ordered it now and we're going to watch it. I did not watch it at that time, but I have enough understanding of Smallville because I am a Superman comic book fan of what happened in it. A lot of people were raging when Lois Lane came in and suddenly stole him, and I was like, that's in the comics.
Yeah, and that's a small part of me that kind of wants to see, like, not really happen, but in Superman and Lois, like Clark and Lana need to go on a date or something. It was like thinking back to the Smallville show, but it's got to be Lois and Clark at the end of the day.
I could see Lois and Clark having a falling out if something with the boys happened where they were very almost on a falling out moment when Jordan nearly got himself killed.
Yeah.
I actually was like, for about 5 seconds, I was like, they made him the sacrificial twin. I literally was like, they're going to kill him off. Well, that's the problem. I don't think they can kill off Jonathan Kent. He's the real comic book character. And actually, Jonathan Kent is the real, actual canon twin. He wasn't a twin. He was a singleton. He was born before Oliver reset the universe. So if they're going to do anything, they're going to erase Jordan from existence, because Jordan is he doesn't exist anywhere except on Superman and Lois. Here we go. Chloe's telling me something. She's writing her hate mail.
Uh-oh.
So I understand that, and I'm with you. I'm on Team Chloe for this one here.
Hashtag save Jordan.
Number one, I don't think Jordan needs saving. I think that Jordan is fine where he is. Somebody had made the comment that when Oliver reset the universe during Crisis, he did it with an understanding of what is coming. I think Oliver was very intentional that they needed the kids to be teenagers, and that there needed to be 2 of them at this time in their lives. It's no accident, and I feel that pretty strongly. And so I feel like again, Jordan has a valuable part to play, and I think Jonathan does too, even if that is to hold the wrench. And be one of those extraordinary humans.
I was so mad at that episode. I was like,
you were mad at that?
No, I hated it. I was so mad because I was like, Jonathan shouldn't just have to hold the wrench. You see Jordan as Clark's Kryptonian side, and I see Jonathan as Clark Kent's side. And I just like, Clark is not totally helpless. Clark he's actually quite clever. He's a reporter, and they gave John all of his mother's in your face antics, but the way that Jordan, the actor, delivers it, he has watched, obviously, Tyler Hoechlin either on set or has copious amounts of movies or stuff like that, because his mannerisms, the way he delivers it, if you watch him, it's exactly Tyler Hoechlin's inflections in his voice. It's the way that Tyler looks. And that's not easy to achieve unless you are studying that person to mimic them. So it's Lois's mouth running when John talks, but it's definitely his dad and the way that his dad delivers things. Especially, you notice it like with the general. He put the general in his place at least twice.
Yeah. And John Henry Irons. I mean, that idea, Lois telling him, listen, you may not have powers. That doesn't mean you're powerless. I think for her to say, I know how you feel, and, validating his, what he's going through, but letting him know, hey, it's going to be okay. And we've seen Jonathan step up and be bold. I mean, I think that, he planted that idea in John Henry Irons' mind about finding a better way, right? Had it not been for him to say that,
I don't know how much you guys know of the comics. They're actually doing the Death of Superman story without killing Superman, which I'm shocked that they're doing it. I actually was like, they're going to kill Superman in this freaking first season, because anybody who's read the comics knows that this is the storyline basically of the Death of Superman. But I was like, why would you call it Superman and Lois if you're going to kill off Superman?
Yeah, we just have called
and Lois.
And Lois.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The boys and Lois.
Right. Jordan and maybe some Jonathan and Lois.
Yeah, like I like the Oliver thing too. I like that Oliver Queen is basically now the overarching deity of the Arrowverse. He's not dead. He's just in permanent state of watching over it.
Right. He's at Queen Consolidated.
Yeah. He's literally the overarching god of the universe and making sure his people are okay. I also like Stephen Amell, who went from I'm not playing Arrow again to after COVID, well, I might play Arrow again.
Money talks.
Well, no, it's not even that. It was before COVID, he was done. And then he was the only one in Canada because he was already there. And people are like, let's reboot Arrow. And Amell was like, all righty, well, we're already here, so let's go do it. And
Actually,
I think it's like, darn. But I think that helped make him realize that when there's nothing going on in the TV land, the Arrowverse people are still his fans.
Yeah.
And I think it was awakening for a lot of actors that way. Anyway, back to the general.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I understand that the General Lane, he's a pragmatist, right? He is essentially, I will do whatever it takes, morally gray or otherwise, in order to win, right? If that means I have to use a tactical advantage, then I will do that. But at the same time, I'm like, who Clark is.
He's your son-in-law.
Yeah. I mean, you don't go and the idea that he would somehow be stockpiling weapons to kill his son-in-law. I think Jonathan said it perfectly. He called him a coward, right? Yeah. To his face, called him out as a coward. And I
love John.
Yeah.
Because John is not afraid. And I think that's the beauty of him. Oh, I just see, like, when you talk about him like that, it's like, John's not scared of the general. He's like, okay, I'm going to get in your face as much as I get in the bullies for Jordan, because now you're bullying not only my brother, but you're bullying my dad.
Yeah. So do you find the reversal they put in there a little bit interesting, that everybody was pissed at General Lane for developing these kryptonite weapons, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to go and destroy all of the weapons, and Clark's like, well, hold on, let's not be too hasty.
Yeah, keep them, please. Prepare to kill me.
I thought there was an interesting part. My interesting part about that was it took Superman, who got the sniffles, for a day or two after the weapons and whatnot, and then passing on that to his son to make the general realize that you're not going to kill Superman that way. You're going to give him the sniffles, but you're going to kill your own grandson.
Yeah.
I feel like John was another kind of instigator to making the general realize it. He had been trying in a rudimentary way to do it, but that moment where the kid's lungs are freezing because he's half Kryptonian, no one can do anything except watch him suffer. Then moving forward, of course, having Morgan Edge be his brother. I love the actor as Morgan Edge. I will tell you that guy delivers.
Oh my gosh.
He
is so good. Like, I remember like thinking when I first saw him and realizing that he was Kryptonian and stuff, I'm like, that's a different take on Morgan Edge. Because I thought of Smallville. I'm like, he was like, Morgan Edge was in Smallville for like a few episodes and it was done. But I really liked how they kind of took him and was like, you know what, we're going to do something different with him. And he was so good. He still is so good. I can't wait to see. Oh my gosh.
The actor delivers okay, he's evil, but you see as you go through, he wasn't evil in the first place. And we could say he's a product of what he was raised as, but that was not his thing. The thing is his dad in his Fortress of Solitude was just hell-bent on destroying and taking over worlds. But you see how easily these two brothers could have been co-saving the world for, Clark says, 40 years. And they were apart because of some ancient feud between their dead dads. I know that Morgan Edge is probably going to die, like totally and die and be like absolutely obliterated, which there goes Clark being super kicking himself because he couldn't save somebody. And because we all know Superman, he does not kill people. He has his little rule of we do not kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Short of having the Super Friends come over and save the day, which I am not a fan of. I was so mad when Clark was going evilly because I was like, it is too early in this show's history to make Superman go evil and have to call in all the Super Friends. Don't do it. I was glad that that didn't work out because I didn't want the show stands alone on its own 2 feet. It didn't need the Super Friends. And I'm really glad that when Diggle came in, the show still stood on its own 2 feet because I was really concerned with Diggle coming in as you had 3 Johns there. And it's like, what are they going to do with the Johns? This is haha, funny, great. But are you going to make Diggle now a pivot in this world that he's not going to be able to get out of?
Diggle's presence was an anchor moment. I thought that there had been a lot of debate about when the show was set. Is it in the future? Is it in the present? When does it really take place? And John Diggle showing up, just let everybody know, no, this is happening right now. Mm-hmm. All of these shows are in line.
I can kind of see it. I mean, like you look at Arrow and everything, how they had the flash forwards and stuff like that. And so like, well, you knew that was clear, like this was the future. But with Superman and Lois, at the end of Crisis, you didn't really see him and Lois and their family and everything. And so during Crisis, there's one kid and all of a sudden there's the one baby. And then the same year, there's 2 teenagers. So I could kind of see where they thought maybe this was a look into the future. But I don't know. I like that it's in the present, though.
I will say that I was one of those who was confused by that. I had made the jump that, okay, this is taking place, 15 years from Crisis. But John Diggle's appearance, besides, I think just kind of reminding us that we're still in the Arrowverse, even John's morality. I think he's always been a bit of a touchstone, kind of reminding people about what's important. Even his brief appearance, I thought was really important. Now, so I guess you're not one of those people who are mad about the fact that Supergirl has not made an appearance on the show yet.
I never liked Supergirl. It's not that I don't like Supergirl herself. It has nothing to do with the cast. It has nothing to do with the actors or the story. I was mad that they picked up Supergirl but did not boot Superman at the same time.
Right.
Because I'm like, there's an order to the chaos, people. There is actually an order to how this all works out. And the order to how this all works out is you put Superman first, and then you put Supergirl, because they're cousins. I'm not upset that it's leaving. I'm not upset that it ran it 6 seasons anyway. It did a lot. So I think Melissa Benoist deserves to go hang out with her newborn child. Yeah. And I think that she deserves not to be picked on because her figure is not going to fit into the traditional Supergirl costume. I think that playing a superhero is an unreal expectation on males to look a certain way. And I think females, we even get more crap as it goes along. A thankless battle. I followed more of the Marvel side of, because I liked the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC TV universe.
Right. Yeah.
So I watched a lot of the Marvel people bulk up, and those guys are in the gym all the time, and they do it every day, and they do it for hours, and it's not a sustainable thing. And she just had a baby, and you know what? Good on her. Let her go rest. And it's not, unless they kill off Kara, then I would be shocked.
Don't do that.
But
I hope not.
I'm like, just let her live happily never after, and she can come guest star on as she needs to. You don't need to kill her. You don't need to do anything dramatic to her. She can just be there whenever she needs to be.
And plus, the show has kind of done all it really needs to do or could do. I mean, sure, you can keep coming up with storylines like, oh, this week you'll fight this monster or this person, but like they really have covered pretty much all they need to cover with that character.
I only bring it up simply because of the emphasis on family, right? And Kara is family, right? She is blood, and yet they seem to talk about it like Superman is the only Kryptonian on the planet.
It's true.
And, that to me, that seems a little bit strange. So
while Superman was going on, Supergirl was on hiatus, and it was on hiatus in real life canon time. And so since it was on hiatus in real life canon time, I think that's why they did that, because when it started, it was on hiatus. I'm not of the opinion either way with Kara and her situation. I don't know what Kara is doing in her world at the moment. It seems like Kara is kind of struggling, for lack of a better term, in her little part of the world. But I think in real time, Supergirl wasn't playing, and there was nothing to report about Supergirl. So they made the, yes, she is family, she is blood. The other thing is, I think that they know she exists, but she's not like Clark. She doesn't participate with the General. And frankly, I think that no one could stand the General that long. Kara would have punched him long ago, and it's pretty.
She would have laser-eyed him the first day.
She'd have killed him.
Well, that sounds like a positive attribute about Kara.
Yeah.
A reason for her to stick around, maybe. So,
# kill the General.
Right. That trending.
He is I think he's a necessary evil, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is the one that dies at the end of the season. And then that sends Lois into a tailspin. I mean, Lois is a little bit fragile with some of the situation anyway. Like, she's great, she's strong, but then you see this Natalie episode, and you see how actually really truly human that Lois is.
I've got to say that Bitsy Tulloch does such a brilliant job.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I've always held Superman and Lois to a very high standard. Like, if you're not Christopher Reeves or Margot Kidder, I don't want you to even try. Right? Why?
Nobody else has the same love of Superman as me.
And I'm just like, we've seen so many pale comparisons, right? I could name a couple of them off the top of my head, but I won't.
You know what, Brendan? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
He was sunk not because of anything else. He looked like Christopher Reeve, and people didn't give him a single bit of credit for his show because all they cared about was how he looked. And yes, it was a flop, but that was not not his fault. And he has shown that a couple times where he's reprised this as far as for the DC verse. He is a good actor, and people, like I said, they shortchanged him. And I feel like that was a crappy thing to do. He was not a bad actor.
I don't think I appreciated him enough until, oddly enough, when they brought him back for Crisis.
Oh, it was great.
And
So
both
good.
he and Tyler were standing next to each other. I'm like, oh, he really looks like Superman. But,
Why is he not Superman?
yeah.
I look at Tyler and I look at Christopher Reeves, and Tyler has a unique, it's really unique that he is able to make you believe that he is absolutely Superman and he is absolutely Clark Kent.
Right.
And that has been a high standard for me. And I watched the Henry Cavill stuff, and I love Henry Cavill. I did not like him as Superman because I'm like, you have no personality as Clark Kent, and it makes me insane. So, and I know that he can act because he has done Regency. He has done all these other things. It was like someone told him when he was on the set to be a certain way because he should have had the ability to be Clark Kent by his entire textbook of his entire career. So there are definitely bad versions of Superman, and there are definitely poor stories of Superman, but Superman and Lois bridges that nicely, where they have a guy who can play klutzy Clark Kent, which sometimes is real. Like he said in Supergirl, he really did drop a pile of papers on the floor and it was real. Conversely to the guy who is this close to killing John Henry Irons. They obviously are going to kidnap the boys because there's no logical reason why there would be a promo. What are we going to do? And Clark is in it's Superman, but Clark is in his Superman outfit and he's close to tears. There's no logical reason for that to happen unless they've taken the boys and they're being used as leverage. And we already know that just as a single Kryptonian, Jordan is not powerful enough to take on Uncle Morgan. And Uncle Morgan is now turning into a bomb.
Right. Yeah. And I say the word yet. If there's anything we've noticed is that Jordan's abilities have been developing. I mean, he's a slow burn, but I really feel like, I don't know if you ever watched the old Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. The really thing with this character is instead of him being like his dad, where he's almost essentially born with his powers, we really in Jordan we see his powers, slowly, incrementally, kind of building bit by bit. Mm-hmm. I do feel like they're developing him. He just isn't developing quite as fast as we need him to. That's where I see.
In my perfect little world for Superman, he would have the less known ability, like the Clark does the seeing eye thingy, or no, Jordan doesn't do that. Like that could be a thing, or the flight thing, that could be something that or Jonathan could do that is helpful. But give him lesser abilities, and then it really buys into what we talk about on our show all the time. And I don't know how many of you guys watch Supernatural, but in Supernatural, they made the Winchesters better together than they are apart. And I think that the way they've built John and Jordan, they are better together than they are apart.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they continue doing that, allow them to complement each other in a logical way and make it so they don't have duplicate powers, so that they have to work together, so that if it'd be easy to make them frenemies as brothers are, but also make them a very force to be reckoned with together.
Definitely see him developing something more, maybe not in this season, but at some point down the line. I never really thought about the idea of him having separate powers and not duplicate powers, which is a good way to look at it, because you're right, they kind of are better together. So if they had the same exact powers, it's like, well, we don't really need each other at this point. Like, I don't need you to do this. I can just do it myself.
Right.
Which makes me think too, like if that happens, what if one of them get killed off? I keep being afraid of that. Like one of them is going to die, and I don't want it to happen.
And especially, season 1, they're so important to the story that it would be a bad idea to get rid of one of the twins.
It's the same reason they're not going to kill Superman.
Yeah, I think they're both safe.
Yeah, and Lois, all 4 of them. I mean, I feel like somebody's going to die though. like a main character or even a side character?
I think it's going to be Kyle, and I think it's going to be completely natural in a fire or something. And I think it, and then finally, my one redeeming quality about Kyle, the one thing I like about Kyle, and the one thing I think that they shortchange him on constantly, is that he is smart. He is the freaking chief of the fire department until they decided to take away his crown for a minute. Yeah. But he was not a total pain in the neck. And so I'm glad that if they're going to do anything, if they kill him in a fire, if they kill him out naturally, that will make sense. And that could push what's her name to relapse. It would be a whole thing, which would make sense. And I don't want anybody to die. Chloe thinks that General Lane is going to die at the end. We thought that Chrissy was going to die early on. We thought she was just a glorified red shirt, but then they upped her to a series regular next season. So she's not a glorified red shirt. I know someone's going to die.
My money is on Kyle, frankly.
Yeah.
I think that number one, as a character, he needs a way to try to redeem himself.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that sacrificing himself for his family and for his town, I could really see him doing that.
I'd like it to be saving the Kent boys.
I had the same thought. I pictured maybe Jonathan being in a fire and says like, I don't have superpowers yet, help. And then he, helps him out.
Alrighty, we have talked to Stephen and Chris here from A Pod in a Hard Place. So they are awesome. They air on Sundays at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time and bump it up an hour depending on your time zone because it's too hard to say all the time zones. Right. Also, be sure to follow them on Twitter. It's under @Pod in a Hard Place. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. They are also on Facebook. Is it just Pod in a Hard Place on Facebook?
It's Between a Pod and a Hard Place on Facebook.
Okay. So Between Pod and a Hard Place on Facebook. We are on Instagram, Great Geek Debates. And we are also on TikTok of our greatest outtakes. And when I make a fool of myself trying to write a closing speech here. Anyways, we thank you so much for tuning in and being subscribers and going to tune into our friends who are also incredibly great and talk about a lot of the same things we do. Obviously, you got a glimpse of it here today. And we look forward to entertaining you on our next broadcast. Bye for now.